Hi everybody, this is Misdemeanor. I'm going to try this again. I did a video about Christianity last night, but I changed some water into wine a couple weeks ago, and it really kicks my ass. I don't know, I added a little bit too much sugar to the recipe, I think. So let's do a sober episode this time, and we're talking about Christianity, and what I want to talk about is prophets in general. Let's talk about prophets in general. A prophet is a man who has claimed to have some direct communication with God. And because of this direct communication with God, he's able to make rules for others to live by. First of all, I don't think that God is something that can be communicated directly with conversationally. You can pray to God, but God is not going to answer you back. If he answers you back, then you're schizophrenic. So let's leave that right there. If you think that men would never tell an untrue story that serves to enhance their that serves to enhance your perception of them, then you just haven't talked to men very much. This is what men do. This is something in common with all people. It's not that women don't do it, but men will fish stories. Men will exaggerate themselves and their abilities to impress people, and that's been true since the invention of language. So one way that I can tell whether or not a person is a prophet is by what that prophet says that God said. God, I'm an atheist, but God, in his perfection, does not have bad ideas. So you can tell whether or not a prophet is a prophet or not if he's got some bad ideas. What's a bad idea in Christianity is one is vicarious redemption. That is the use of a scapegoat to take on other people's sins. It's a very bad idea. You do your sins, you kill a goat so that the goat can take on your sins. You kill the goat, and now the sins are eliminated. That's a ridiculous idea. And that's we see that in the Old Testament. Cain and Abel, that kind of thing. I know that people were doing that, but it's just not. It's not an idea that makes any sense or provides any. It doesn't fix any sins at all. At all. A lot of people like scapegoats. I know my family likes a scapegoat. That's me. But taking on people's sins doesn't negate their sins. And another thing that is evil about Christianity is forgiveness of evil. And people say that when they forgive people that do horrific things, that they feel better themselves, that they don't carry rage or whatever. It's probably not good to carry rage and anger. I know that I'm angry at people at times about things that have happened to me. But it's almost more evil than the person that did the horrific things to forgive the person that did the horrific things. You don't forgive evil, because that in itself is evil, and I think you're just excusing bad behavior. So that is one problem with Christianity. If you don't know the story of Christianity, he was in theory the son of God. His mother was not. She was impregnated by an angel. Not through sex, not through the sin of sex, not how women have always throughout time created life. They made her be a virgin in the story, but she was not a virgin. Virgins don't get pregnant. We know that. In biology, this is for them to ask us to believe this is wrong. So there's that. There's a recipe for making a Messiah in the Old Testament, in the Talmud. In Numbers, we have an allusion to the star in the sky would mark the birth of the Messiah. Isaiah says this Messiah would be crucified with criminals. But there was also some other requirements that Christ didn't hit. I think the gathering of the Jews, the rebuilding of the temple. Christ didn't bring any of that about, and he didn't become king in his lifetime. Not a legitimate king, not the ruler of a kingdom. The Christian kingdom, sure, he's their king. You hear that? Christ is king. Whenever somebody wants to bash the Jews, they'll say Christ is king, because Christ is their king. But that's not it's not accurate. It's not true. There were some miracles. The wise men came. Jesus was made by some handlers. They arranged the rape of his mother to have this baby during a comet. They knew when the comet was happening. If you look at Egyptian, they've been. I mean, that's how they built the pyramids, to line up with the sky. They've been watching the sky for many years, and so they knew when comets were coming and going, and so you could time a pregnancy with this comet, provided that you rape Mary 9 months prior to this comet's being in the sky, and you knew it was coming. Another thing, I don't know of a better way to induce labor. If you're pregnant, like kind of on the cusp, but you haven't gone into labor yet, but maybe, the comet's showing up, they kind of need her to rush things along. I don't know a better way to induce labor than riding across the desert on a donkey. So, of course, Joseph takes Mary across the desert to the city of David. Probably the most important requirement of Christ, or of the Messiah, not Christ. The Jews said that he was supposed to be related to King David. So they went to the city of David, Bethlehem, and but none of their people from there. They don't have family to stay with. Apparently there's supposed to be a census. There's no record of the census, but according to legend, there was a census. They had to go to the city of David to prove not only the first chapter. Matthew claims that Mary is related to David. That's what the entire first chapter of the New Testament says. It's a pedigree connecting Mary to King David. So, but they went to the city of David. They don't have any people there, but they went to an inn, and that's the story of how he was born in a stable and all that stuff. And the wise men came. See, these wise men were the Jesus handlers. The wise men already knew. They probably arranged the marriage with Joseph. Mary's marriage to Joseph. They probably are the one that set up the rape of Mary, and also at the same time, Gabriel is a father of Jesus, and also the father of John the Baptist. There was a age gap, of course. The John the Baptist's father was too old to have babies, but she was not too old to have babies. She, I don't know, maybe she was in her 40s, maybe she was later in life, but she was still being a woman, producing blood. You can't incubate a baby without some blood. So she was still fertile. I don't know how many qualified gynecologists we had back then. Probably zero. And another thing we didn't have is qualified coroners. The coroners were a problem because for a lot of Jesus' miracles, there was some rising from the dead, but we didn't really have a qualified coroner. They would say, "This guy's dead. My daughter's dead," and then people just believe it. So it's not like you would call a coroner. Jesus' strategy in performing these miracles, I mean, the miracles were sort of important so that people could, in theory, believe that he was able to do these miracles. And then that's how you prove that you're you have hands from God. You can lay your hands on somebody and heal them. So that's just something that he had to do. So there was sort of you see snake oil salesmen from back in the 1800s doing this, and you see holy revival churches that go in the tents, and they have people hired to play the role of these people who are healed. And Christ's handlers would insert these people into the story, send a guy into a town and act blind for a month, walk around with your eyes closed, and beg for alms, and then all of a sudden Jesus comes along, touches you on the shoulder, and now you can suddenly see. We cannot 2,000 years later cure blindness. That's not something that happened. We know that that's something that didn't happen. That was a story that was put in to make people believe that he was holy and he was connected to God and that he was a prophet, or, well, was he a prophet? He's a Messiah. whatever. And so he's the Son of God, so he can do this. He can heal people just by touching them or saying something. Say the magic words and whatever needs to happen after that. So he does all these things. Lazarus was sort of a dry run for... Are people going to believe this? If we work to do this, this prophecy in the Old Testament about in Isaiah about him being crucified with criminals, if we arrange this crucifixion and we bribe the guards. Oh, by the way, happy Bribe the Guards Day. Today is Sunday. It's Easter Sunday. So it's the guards were paid to take him off the cross when he wasn't dead. He was stabbed in the gut, just sort of a show. So there would be witnesses. He was dead. He was given a cup. We don't know what was in that cup. I keep forgetting the name of that herb. And there's an herb that makes you sleep. There's probably several herbs that make you sleep, but in that cup was something to help him go to sleep. He passes out. That's when they take him off the cross. They stab him in the gut. He doesn't react, so of course he's dead. Everybody around in the crowd sees that he's dead, and he's taken off to the tomb. Tombs, resurrections always happen in tombs. There was a lady, I think he rose up, that had died. My daughter's dead. Come, whatever, Jesus. And she was just like sleeping in her apartment or whatever. So, but she wasn't really dead. This was snake oil salesman shit. The Lazarus story was a little bit more elaborate. They had sent for Jesus. Lazarus is in one town. I think it's Bethany. Lazarus is in one town. He dies. They have somebody go over to wherever, Galilee, wherever he was, to tell him, hey, our buddy Lazarus, he's dead. We need you to come over here and make him not be dead no more. So somebody goes all the way over there. This is before airplanes. Goes all the way over there. Jesus doesn't say, oh, geez, I better get my ass down to Bethany and help my friend Lazarus out. Sounds like he's dead. No, he took like over a week to get back. And, I don't know how long it would take, at least a couple of days of travel to get to this place. But he just took his time. He wasn't concerned about it. In this funeral, there was a procession, there was offerings in this tomb, there's wine, there's food, and so Lazarus is in the tomb, waiting for Jesus to show up. Jesus had been to Lazarus. He comes up earlier in the story. They were friends, so he's part of this plot to fake his death, have Jesus come rescue him, and everybody in town is going to see this funeral procession. They're going to seal him up in this tomb. And we're just going to see if the local townspeople, are going to believe that Jesus is a miracle worker who's the Son of God and can rise people up from the dead. So he does that, and people do believe it. Gossip, people are stupid. You see that in politics today. People will believe anything you tell them. Get the jab. You're xenophobe. Whatever. People will believe whatever you spoon feed to them. So they discovered that the gullibility of the people were there, and then so that's where they arranged the crucifixion. And the crucifixion, I'm sure it wasn't a good time. I don't know how you train for a crucifixion. I think it helps that you're 35 years old. That's pretty much a man's prime, right? Physical prime, anyway. Not mental prime, but a man is at 33 is, he's as strong as he's going to get at 33. So I don't know if he does some sort of a, I don't know how you train for that. Ask Joe Rogan. But he wasn't up there very long. It was just a couple of days. So all these people, he had a rich friend too. Was it Bartholomew or something? There's a rich friend in the town that he got crucified in. More than enough money to pay off the Romans. And the Romans are the ones that wanted him to... The Romans had... Well, they were trying to take over Israel. The Jews were making lots of money. The Jews like money. The Jews do like money. And nobody wants them to have it. It seems like historically, throughout history, people never want the Jews to have any fucking money. And this Christianity story was a sort of a way of not only maybe converting Jewish people to Christianity so that, they could get a piece of this religious action. So, anyway, he's up on the cross. Roman guards take him off the cross, put him in the tomb. 3 days later, Mary Magdalene sees him. He's out of the tomb. And she goes about telling people that she just saw Jesus. So, that's terrific. There's one more thing I wanted to talk about. I forgot. Okay. I'm not sure. But there is a plausible explanation for everything in the Bible. You just have to use kind of your discretion to see what's happening. And I'm not saying that there wasn't some good information about how to be good people. They're talking about the Good Samaritan. That's a good message. The transference of your sins to another person who is actually not around in reality. A Christian will think that he's alive and floating around in the spirit or whatever. But it's vicarious redemption. It's a scapegoat, and it's evil. It's not from God. That is from a man. That is from a man who has sinned and wants to get rid of his sin, without any repercussions. So, gosh, I can't remember that one last thing that I want to talk about. I guess I didn't write it down. We'll circle back to it. I'm doing Islam next. That'll be the next section I do about false prophets, religions, people. It's just a time right now where there's a lot of tension between the Jews and the Muslims, and there's always going to be, as long as there's followers of Islam. There's going to be tension between, because it's in the book. So there's always going to be that tension, but right now it's really popping off over there. So I guess that's all I have today. If I remember the other thing I want to talk about, I'll mention it in the next installment of my reviews, my reaction to religions, and we'll go from there. Until then, I'll see you around the campfire. All right, bye-bye.